In 2003, the British cycling team was a national joke. 100 years of racing, almost nothing to show for it. One European bike manufacturer refused to even sell them equipment, worried that being associated with British cycling would make their bikes look bad by comparison. Then a man named Dave Brailsford took over. And he didn't do anything dramatic. He didn't overhaul the training regime overnight, or hire a squad of new coaches, or demand the riders train twice as hard. He asked one question: what if we just got 1% better at everything? Not 1% better at cycling, 1% better at 100 tiny things. The way riders wash their hands, to avoid catching colds during the season. The type of pillow they slept on, for better recovery. Even the color they painted the inside of the team truck, white, so mechanics could spot dust that might damage a bike's parts. Every single change was small, almost embarrassingly small. Individually, none of them meant anything. 5 years later, British cycling won 60% of the gold medals available at the Beijing Olympics. 4 years after that, at London 2012, they broke 7 Olympic records and 9 world records. In under a decade, one of the worst teams in the world became the best team the sport had ever seen. And they didn't do it with one big breakthrough. They did it with 100 habits so small, most people wouldn't have bothered. That's what this video is about. In this video, we're going to explore 7 micro habits, each one taking less than 5 minutes a day, that, if you stack them consistently, will leave you almost unrecognizable to yourself in 6 months. Not because any single one is powerful, but because of what happens when tiny, repeated actions compound over time. By the end of this video, you'll understand the psychology of why small actions beat big overhauls, why your brain is actually working against you right now, and exactly which 7 habits give you the highest return for the lowest effort. Let's get into it. Here's the uncomfortable truth almost nobody wants to hear. The reason you've failed at self-improvement before isn't a lack of willpower. It's that you were trying to change too much, too fast. Behavioral scientist B.J. Fogg spent decades at Stanford studying why habits succeed or fail, and his research kept leading him to the same conclusion. Motivation is unreliable. It spikes on a Monday morning and evaporates by Wednesday afternoon. If your habit depends on motivation, it depends on something that was never going to show up consistently in the first place. But willpower doesn't scale. Discipline runs out. What does scale is something almost insultingly simple. Make the habit so small, it doesn't require willpower at all. Duke University researchers found that roughly 40% of our daily actions aren't decisions. They're habits, running on autopilot, triggered by cues we don't even register. You don't decide to check your phone the second you wake up. You don't decide to sigh and open Instagram the moment you feel bored. The behavior is already loaded into the system, waiting for the trigger. Which means the fastest way to change your life isn't to fight your current habits head-on. It's to quietly install new ones underneath the radar. Habits so small your brain doesn't flag them as a threat, doesn't demand a debate, doesn't burn through your limited daily reserve of willpower. James Clear calls this the aggregation of marginal gains. The same phrase, almost word for word, that Brailsford used with his cyclists. 1% better, repeated daily, isn't linear, it's exponential. Improve by just 1% every day for a year, and you don't end up 365% better. Mathematically, you end up roughly 37 times better than when you started. 6 months is enough time for that curve to start bending sharply upward. Not because you did something huge, but because you never stopped doing something small. So here are the 7 micro habits worth installing. Each one under 5 minutes. Each one, on its own, forgettable. Together, they rewire the trajectory of your next 6 months. Micro habit number 1. The 2-minute morning win. Before you touch your phone, complete one small task you can finish in under 2 minutes. Make your bed. Write down your top priority for the day. Do 10 push-ups. This works because of something psychologists call the small wins effect, a term coined by researcher Carl Weick. A small win early in the day sends a signal to your brain: I am someone who follows through. That identity shift, repeated daily, is more valuable than the task itself. You're not making your bed. You're voting for the version of yourself who has their life together, one vote at a time. Micro habit number 2, the 60-second reset breath. Once a day, ideally when you feel your chest tighten or your thoughts start spiraling, stop and take 10 slow, deliberate breaths. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 6. This isn't a wellness cliche. Slower, extended exhales activate your vagus nerve, which shifts your nervous system out of fight or flight and into a calmer, more regulated state within about 60 seconds. Do this daily, even when you're not stressed, and you train your baseline stress response to reset faster every single time life throws something at you. 6 months of a faster reset button changes how resilient you feel under pressure. Micro habit number 3, the 3-line journal. Not a diary, not a gratitude list you write on autopilot. 3 lines, every night. One thing that went well, one thing you'd do differently, one thing you're looking forward to tomorrow. This works because of the psychological principle of closure. Your brain holds on to unfinished business. That's why unresolved arguments and unsent texts keep looping in your head at 1 a.m. 3 lines of reflection gives your day a definitive ending. It tells your brain, this chapter is closed, you can let it go. Do this for 6 months, and you'll have a written record of 180 small stories. Proof of growth you'd otherwise forget ever happened. Micro habit number 4, the 1 contact reach out. Every day, send 1 message to someone in your life. A friend you've lost touch with, a mentor, a family member. Not a "hey, how are you" that dies in the group chat. Something specific, a memory, a question about their life, a genuine compliment. Loneliness researcher Julianne Holt-Lundstad's work found that weak social connection carries health risks comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Most people don't lose their relationships in one dramatic moment. They lose them 1 unreplied message at a time. 1 outreach a day, over 6 months, rebuilds an entire social infrastructure most people let quietly collapse. Micro habit number 5, the 5-minute declutter. Set a timer. Spend 5 minutes tidying 1 space, your desk, your inbox, 1 drawer. Stop when the timer ends, even if it's not finished. Princeton researchers using MRI scans found that visual clutter competes for your brain's attention, quite literally taxing your ability to focus. A cluttered space isn't just an eyesore, it's a low-grade tax on your working memory, all day, every day. 5 minutes daily doesn't just clean your desk. Over 6 months, it strips away a source of friction you'd stopped noticing because you'd gotten used to living inside it. Micro habit number 6, the 2-minute learning rep. Read 2 pages of a book, or watch 1 focused explainer on a skill you want to build. Not a scroll session disguised as research, 1 deliberate, tiny rep of learning. This one leans on what's called the compounding knowledge effect. 2 pages a day is nothing, but it's roughly 25 books a year, without ever feeling like reading time was sacrificed. 6 months in, you're not smarter by accident. You're smarter because you never gave your brain a day off from growing, even by a fraction. Micro habit number 7, the 60-second future visualization. Before bed, spend 1 minute vividly picturing yourself completing tomorrow's most important task. Not vaguely, specifically. See yourself sitting down, starting, following through. Psychologist Gabriele Oetingen's research on mental contrasting found that visualization paired with an actual plan of action measurably increases follow-through the next day. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between vividly imagined action and real rehearsal, so this 60 seconds is quietly training the exact neural pathway you'll need tomorrow morning, before tomorrow morning even arrives. Here's what made the British cycling story so radical. Not one of those 100 tiny changes would have shown up on a highlight reel. Nobody wins gold because they picked the right pillow. But strip away any single habit, and the whole system still would have worked, because it was never about the habit. It was about the compounding. That's the part people miss when they hear micro habits. They assume small means insignificant, but smallness was never the weakness. Smallness was the entire mechanism. Small is what makes a habit survivable on your worst day, your busiest week, your least motivated month, which is exactly the stretch of time most self-improvement attempts die in. If you've ever set a goal in January and abandoned it by February, it wasn't because you lacked discipline, it's because you were trying to build a cathedral in a weekend. Nobody can sustain that. Nobody was ever meant to. The people who transform their lives in 6 months aren't running faster than everyone else. They're just still running when everyone else stopped. Because what they're doing barely costs them anything to keep going. You don't need more willpower. You don't need a bigger overhaul. You need 7 small doors you can walk through every single day. Doors small enough that even on your worst day, you can still fit through. Stack them, protect them, and in 6 months, look back at the person who started this video. And don't be surprised if you don't fully recognize them anymore. If you made it this far, you're already different from most people watching this today. Because most people click away before the good part even starts. That alone tells you something about who you are and what you're capable of building, one small habit at a time. If this gave you something worth carrying into tomorrow, hit like and subscribe. The next video might just be the next small door you need to walk through.